Good morning. I apologize for the delay. Thanks for bearing with us as we got everything set up here for this morning's press conference. My name is Neil Bradley. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber, welcome. You may have noticed, and I hope you did, as you came in our front doors this morning, two new large signs that just went up this morning, reading, "America, Built by Dreamers." The signs, if you took notice of them, consist of two sets of images. The first is of famous Americans who came here as immigrants, Albert Einstein, Andrew Carnegie, Estee Lauder, among others. The second set are individuals who we are here to talk about this morning, DACA recipients, often better known as dreamers. Here at the U.S. Chamber, part of our mission is to promote prosperity and economic growth through the defense of the free enterprise system. A key component of that system is the freedom of individuals to pursue their own path, going as far as their God-given talents and hard work will take them. Whether that means being the teacher that changes the lives of students every year, the small business owner who brings smiles and jobs to their local community, or the scientist that cures once fatal diseases. In America, we only ask that you work hard and that you play by the rules. And the dreamers, who were brought here as young children with no culpability in that decision, have done just that. They worked hard. They graduated from high school. They enrolled in college or joined the military. They got jobs and they paid taxes. In 2012, President Obama created the DACA Program to protect these individuals from deportation and provide them with the legal ability to go to school and to work. Admittedly, the DACA program was never meant to be a permanent fix, as this issue is a symptom of the broadened failures of our current immigration system. As you know, just over 2 months ago, on September 5th, the Department of Justice announced the termination of the DACA program, which will be effectively rescinded as of next March. President Trump almost immediately asked Congress to take those 6 months and come up with a solution. And initially, the signs for bipartisan compromise were promising. 2 months have now passed, and I'm sad to report that we are arguably further away from a solution today than we were then. This is unacceptable. If action is not taken by Congress, beginning on March 5th, an average of 1,000 individuals a day will lose their ability to legally work and be subject to a deportation to a country they have never known. That will happen every day for 2 years. Let that sink in a moment. 1,000 people a day, every day for 2 years, ripped from our workplaces and eventually our communities. Here at the Chamber, we represent the interests of over 3 million businesses of all sizes across all industries. A common concern, no matter the size or industry, is the ability to attract qualified, skilled individuals for open positions and future expansion. Yet if Congress does not act, we'll take 1,000 qualified, skilled individuals a day, the vast majority of whom are already working, and make it illegal to employ them. That's going to hurt our communities and our economy. But let me be more blunt. To withdraw the right of these individuals to go to school and to work and to deport them to countries they do not know is contrary to fundamental American principles and the best interests of our country. That's why we're here today. Why representatives of various employers and associations will be on Capitol Hill today and going forward to demand that Congress enact legislation protecting DACA recipients prior to year's end. We know that this will require compromise, and we'll be encouraging both parties to compromise and enact a real solution. The stakes are simply too high to do otherwise. Before I turn this over to Chris Padilla of IBM, a real champion on this and so many other issues, I want to tell you a bit about those color pictures outside our front door, the ones I mentioned just a moment ago. Those are real DACA recipients. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to share with you their names, but here's a taste of their stories. Pictured is a dreamer from Nigeria who wants to be a computer science teacher. When asked what she wants to say to all of us in Washington, she commented, quote, "All I ask is to be allowed to work legally and contribute to this country and make something of myself." On why she loves the U.S., she says, quote, "I love being in the midst of so much opportunity and being around people who believe in the power of hard work. It's so inspiring to know that hard work is, and always has been, the essence of America." couldn't have said it better. A dreamer, another pictured, who's a student at the University of Maryland, plays the violin in her church's worship band and told us, "We dreamers are here to contribute to this country we've grown to love and call our home." And finally, a dreamer from Peru says, "I want people in Washington to know that I grew up here. I feel American and am American in every sense but having the proper paperwork. I attended my first day of kindergarten here. I played the clarinet and was on the basketball team in high school. My whole life is here, and I'm just asking for the opportunity to live and contribute in the country I call home." There are another 700,000 plus stories just like these. It's time for Washington to listen and Congress to get this done. Chris?
Thank you, Neil. I want to thank the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for its leadership on this. IBM is proud to be a member of the U.S. Chamber, and we're proud to work with you, Neil, and your entire team on this important issue. As Neil mentioned, my name is Chris Padilla. I'm Vice President of Government and Regulatory Affairs at IBM. I'm also the proud son of an immigrant. My dad came to this country in the 1950s to go to college. He came here chasing the American dream. The idea that if you work hard, no matter where you come from or what your background is, you can succeed in this country. That's like the 800,000 DACA recipients we're talking about today. The only difference is my dad had a piece of paper that allowed him to be here legally. The same 800,000 dreamers that we're working for have the vision and the dream of working hard, making something of themselves, and getting a good job and contributing to our society. We're proud at IBM to have more than 30 of these young men and women working at our company. They contribute to our business in many different ways. They do software development, sales, technical support. One dreamer that I had the chance to meet with a few weeks ago even worked around-the-clock shifts out of his mother's home, which was the only building that had power in Houston after Hurricane Harvey. And he worked around the clock to keep our cloud support operations up and running throughout that hurricane. That's the kind of person we want working at IBM, and it's the kind of person we want to have in this country. These young men and women were brought here as kids, some even infants. They've built their lives here, they've worked hard, they've overcome incredible obstacles, they've stayed out of trouble. And we at IBM admire their determination and their resilience, and that's why we've brought them to Washington. We had 10 of them here a few weeks ago. We have 8 more here today. They've done dozens and dozens of meetings with members of Congress telling their stories. I could tell you those stories myself, but I wouldn't do it justice, so I want to show you a video that we've made and we're releasing today that we're sharing with members of Congress and staff. Can we run the video?
I was born in Mexico, came to the United States when I was 4 with my mother.
I've been in this country since I was 5 years old.
My father decided to bring me to the U.S. when I was 11 in 1999.
I came to the U.S. when I was 11 years old.
I first came to the United States when I was 13.
I came here when I was 4 years old in 1999.
This is the only country that I know. This is the country that I consider home.
Growing up, I didn't really understand my situation, but I could sense that my life was a little bit different from my friends.
It wasn't until I was ready to apply for college, and I was really excited to apply, and I found out that I couldn't apply for financial aid.
I ended up working up to 3 jobs. It took me about 7 years to graduate from college.
June 2012, when DACA was announced, I was excited. I was beyond happy. I went to my room and I cried.
Thankfully, DACA was implemented, and that felt like liberating. You know, I was able to accomplish my dreams, get a job, you know, get a driver's license. Now I work at IBM. You know, I'm making an impact.
I was able to get a house, get healthcare, pay off all of my debt.
My work permit expires in August 2018, so I have 10 months.
It very much so affects every part of our lives if we don't have something passed.
I want to work, I want to pursue an MBA, and I want to eventually be in a leadership position.
This isn't just affecting a job. or our job. It's affecting our entire future. It affects our family. It affects our present. It affects our entire lives.
I have a lot of plans in the future now that I'm married. I want to have my kids be part of this nation. I've always felt American, at heart. This is my home. This is where I have my friends, my family, and I want to be here for the future.
We are incredibly proud that a job at IBM is part of the American dream for these young people. We want to keep it that way. And that's why we're here today working as part of the Coalition for the American Dream. At IBM, we believe that immigration is a tremendous source of strength for our country. It's part of what makes America different, special, and strong. We bring ideas, goods, capital, and people from all over the world and use that combined knowledge and strength to be global leaders at IBM and in the United States. Just because these dreamers don't have legal status doesn't make their contributions to our country or to our company any less valuable. We should let them stay. We should let them continue working and living their lives in the only country they've ever known. And that's why IBM is asking Congress to pass legislation before the end of this year to enable dreamers to stay here permanently. We're proud to do so, and we will work hard for that result. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to another great partner, Todd Schulte with Forward US.
Well, I want to start by thanking the Chamber and IBM and Neil and Chris and so many other people for being here this morning. My name is Todd Schulte. I'm the president of Forward.us. We are a bipartisan advocacy organization, and we are right now doing absolutely every single thing we can that we can think of to ensure that Congress passes legislation to protect dreamers this year. But this isn't just about our organization or just the organizations here. There are not that many issues in life when 85% of the American public agrees, when 91% of Democrats agree, when 84% of independents agree, and when 80% of Republicans agree. And that's just a Fox News poll. And whether it's 3,400 faith leaders who've individually reached out to members of Congress and said the time to do this is now, whether it's 800 different business leaders from every major sector of the economy, from manufacturing to energy to healthcare to technology, who have signed on and said Congress needs to pass legislation, whether it's the nearly 100 members of the Coalition for the American Dream, who are on the Hill today alongside DACA recipients saying this is urgent. This is an incredibly broad-based effort, but it is an intense effort and one that we feel can get done this year, and that's new. And I think that is important, and I think it is an incredible thing to be sitting here with, in the United States Chamber of Commerce and with leaders from the business community. We are not going to fix everything that's wrong with our immigration system today. There are lots of things that we've worked on in the past, and we are focused on this one thing right now. And to see the business community come forward and folks like IBM and say, we believe in our teammates, we believe in our employees, they are critical members, they make us a stronger company, and we believe that ensuring that they can continue to work here is a no-brainer. We're going to work on it. That is something that is new and that I'm just excited and proud of. So I come from a political background, and contrasts are important. And I think it is important to understand here, there isn't some backstop. Congress has two paths we can go down. Either Congress is going to come together and they're going to pass this, and we think it needs to be this year. The idea that we can wait until March 5th and pass some piece of legislation and there aren't going to be people who are lapsing is totally false. This is the best opportunity to do this. And that's what we're seeing, whether it was nearly 20 Republican members who did a press conference last week, whether it's the fact that Republican co-sponsorships of bills that allow dreamers to earn citizenship has tripled in the last 2 months. We are seeing this real momentum, and we think that's important. And look, whether that's companies like GM or whether it's the Pope who are speaking out about this, there's incredible new allies who have said this is an urgent issue, and we think that's really important here. And the consequences are absolutely devastating, and I think we need to be very clear about this. Ford released a study yesterday that showed between March 6th of next year and November 6th, so around this time, 300,000 DACA recipients would lose the benefits of the program. So what does that mean? Because this is very important. That means they'd lose their ability to work legally in this country. It means they would all become subject to immediate deportation. Now, this is just 300,000 people in about 8 months. And it means that many of those people who went to American elementary schools, American high schools, some of them go to American colleges, some of them even serve in the military, could all be deported using the very information they've given to the government. And I think it is important to understand there is no third option. Either Congress will pass this or that's the road we go down. And so we are going to do absolutely every single thing we can to get this done. And I want to introduce Javier Velasquez. He is exactly the sort of person who we are excited is here today and fighting with. He is a Georgian. I don't know if you're a Bulldogs fan, so I'm sorry about what happened this week. He's an entrepreneur, and he is a DACA recipient. And so it's an honor to get to be here with you today and to get to go to the Hill and have these conversations. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's truly a privilege to be speaking in our nation's capital to everyone present today. It's my first time in D.C., and I can't help but feel inspired by the monuments. And I went out last night, and I got to see the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and I can't help but feel inspired by our country's past leaders. My name is Javier, and I'm an entrepreneur who happens to also be a DACA recipient. I knew at a very early age of my undocumented status, but grew up feeling fully integrated in the fabric of American culture. My father came to the U.S. on a visa, and I, along with my mother, moved from Mexico to Calhoun, Georgia, when I was 1 year old. I have 4 U.S. citizen little sisters, all born in the same hospital and in the same small town I grew up in. Calhoun is a small town with no movie theaters, but plenty of churches. Growing up with an immigrant background, my parents instilled in me a strong sense of American values and the idea that if you worked hard, you could achieve great things. Calhoun is probably the size, we probably have more churches than businesses, honestly, in Calhoun. So it was a very small town that you had no choice but to work hard and behave, because everybody in town knew what you were doing. Being surrounded with the constant economical pressures at home, I was instilled from an early age that being in the United States was like winning a lottery. I was taught that I was in the greatest country on earth, and that the opportunities to do great things with your life were limitless. Unfortunately, in Georgia, dreamers like me are barred from attending top public colleges and benefiting from in-state tuition, and we're still required to pay out-of-state costs. This reality made my dreams of getting a business degree in 4 years impossible. I knew I had to resort to the very entrepreneurial spirit that the American dream is made out of. Having been approved for DACA on the eve of my high school graduation, I knew I would be given a 2-year burn rate, as we say in business, to prove and create something that could sustain me and be aligned with my life goals. Here I stand 2 years later, very proud of what I've been able to accomplish with my work permit. With DACA, I was able to enroll at Georgia Northwestern Technical College, where I'm currently pursuing a degree in business and marketing. Through patience, sleepless nights, and tears, I eventually launched my own marketing company, where I now help more than 100 small businesses based in the US and Canada grow their digital footprint. As an entrepreneur, I hire and give internships to a team of marketers, web developers, and sales reps, all of them who happen to be US citizens. I am proud to create jobs for Americans and help our economy grow by paying taxes. It's hard to say what my life would be like today without DACA. In just over a year, when my work permit expires, I won't be able to continue operating my company efficiently or help small businesses compete in their local economy through our very own services. I won't be able to continue paying business taxes. So this would greatly disrupt the life I've worked to build, not to mention the lives of my 4 little sisters, my clients, and the Americans who I help employ through my marketing company. My life goal is to see Georgia become the #1 state to do business. and make sure that my grandchildren can still say they live in the greatest country on earth. It's extremely difficult for a lot of us in this situation, especially in this political climate, to share our stories. As an evangelical Christian and a person of faith, I am instructed in Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 10, to speak out on behalf of the voiceless and for the rights of all who are vulnerable. So today, I urge the members of Congress to pass a permanent legislative solution before the holiday season this year and speak up for the very people they represent. I want to thank Forward. I want to thank the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
I think we have some time to take a few questions. If we have any questions from our friends in the press. Yes, sir.
Frank Block with Arkansas Democrat is that the argument that millions of people make is if you don't have these folks here, it's going to open up jobs for Americans that are here legally. It's going to help them out. That's the argument that's made. How would you respond?
I guess I'd respond by the story you just heard, right? How many folks do you employ?
Employ about 6.
Employ about 6 Americans. If his company come on up. If his company disappears, 1 job gone and 6 other American jobs gone. So the Chamber's never subscribed to the idea that the American economy is a fixed pie and that we're simply slicing up amounts of the fixed pie. The truth is that we're a growing pie. And when we have smart, skilled individuals who create their own companies or go to work for companies like Chris's, they create value, they create more jobs, and the pie grows. And so that's just a fundamental misunderstanding, I think, of how our economy works. That would be my answer. I don't know if...
I'd strongly agree. At IBM, at any given time, we have between 2,000 and 3,000 jobs open in the United States that we can't fill because we can't find the people with the right skills. As you saw in the video, the 30 or so dreamers that we employ worked hard to get those skills. They put themselves through college or they went to technical school. They have skills that we need. They have the skills to keep our cloud up and running through a hurricane that flooded Houston. Those are the kind of people we want. So I don't buy the argument at all that there's a finite number of jobs and that somehow allowing motivated, qualified young people who want to work, stay in this country, takes a job from any American.
It sounds like you're saying that far from increasing opportunity for legally here Americans, it's actually going to compress the economy for everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the way to look at it is this way. You've seen a couple proposals that have come out. One is the idea that we should rip up DACA and deport nearly 800,000 people. You've also seen proposals come out that would have legal immigration. Now, here's things. Like, we act like this is and it's a good question, we act like this is somehow a economically disputed fact. Here are the actual facts. There's not a single economist in the United States who has put forth an argument that deporting nearly 800,000 young people would be good for the economy. There's not a single one. I've said online, I'm happy to eat an actual shoe if someone puts forward an economical argument that says this is good for the economy. It's not. The idea is, look, we are a country that when we grow and we create new jobs, that doesn't just grow the pie for everybody. That creates new jobs, that pushes up wages, that helps everyone here. This is a question that we act in political campaigns like somehow there's some other side to this. There's no side that says the average American is going to be better off. I'm from St. Louis. Nobody can honestly say that folks in Missouri are going to be better off if we deport 800,000 young people. That's what people say in campaign ads. That's not true, and I think most people know that, and that's why 80% of Republicans will say that allowing dreamers to stay and earn the ability to have legal status and citizenship is a good thing, and they think it's a good thing for them, not just for young people who are here and undocumented.
Second.
You were saying that you're further away from the solution than you were a couple months ago. Why do you think that is? What exactly has happened there? And if you do get the bill passed in some sort of way, is there a certain legislative vehicle you want to see it passed to, like a spending bill, something that must pass?
So I say that we're further away because almost immediately after the Department of Justice's announcement. The president was meeting with bipartisan leaders. There was a bipartisan call to get this done, task force formed, a real sense of both Democrats were going to compromise with Republicans, perhaps in some security things that Republicans felt were important. Republicans who maybe weren't sure how far they were going to go with the extent of the DREAM Act were willing to compromise with Democrats to solve this problem. And then we kind of hit a lull, and that stopped. And, you know, unfortunately, what we're hearing now is, well, at the suggestion of a vehicle, well, we can't add it to one of the vehicles moving in December, the December 8th spending bill. This is what we're hearing from leadership in the House of Representatives in particular on TV last night. I think, speaking for the chamber, we're agnostic as to the vehicle and the mechanism to get the fix done. You know, the process should figure that out. What I would suggest is that we shouldn't be ruling out paths to get this done this year unless we're providing an alternative path to get it done this year. And right now, we're further away because no one's saying what the path is that's going to lead to enactment of a fix prior to December 31st of this year, and that's a problem.
Fully agree.
Ginger Gibson with Reuters. The economy might not be a finite pot, but congressional legislative days are. And they're eating them up right now with taxes, and as you just alluded to, a spending bill. Do you worry, we heard some CEOs saying immediately after the DACA announcement that replacing it was more important than tax reform. From your perspective, and I would like to hear from both of you if that's possible, how should they be prioritizing? If they spent 5 days on DACA instead of on tax reform, and puts tax reform into the new year, would that be acceptable to you? And how would you like to see that time being spent?
So I believe in walking and chewing gum at the same time. Yesterday, the House of Representatives passed a conference report, the National Defense Authorization Act, really important annual piece of legislation, sets out priorities, policies, funding levels for our defense departments. That wasn't sidetracked because we're also doing tax reform. There are other, the House considered a flood insurance bill this week, a priority of one of the committee chairmen. That wasn't sidetracked because we were doing tax reform this week. The Senate is appropriately processing a number of nominations on the floor. That hasn't been sidetracked by the Senate Finance Committee markup. So this is not, while it is a finite number of legislative days, this is not a zero-sum game. And it's not that you have to choose between tax reform to help our economy or protecting dreamers to help our economy. They have more than enough time to get both of these things done. And our expectation is that they are going to get both of these things done. And I think it's a reasonable expectation to set for both sides of the aisle and both sides of the Capitol in Washington.
I would just, if I could add, yesterday, IBM had more than a dozen of our top executives from across the country fly into Washington. These are our senior state executives who work at various sites around the country. They came here to talk about tax reform. Most of them stayed today to talk about DACA. We can do both at the same time.
Any other questions?
The president hinted that if no solution were reached on DACA, he might reactivate DACA in March. I mean, there's a hint of that, right? As I recall, has anybody on the Hill said that, well, you know, we have time?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. So it's important to be really clear. So DACA is gone. There isn't, this is actually a really important distinction. DACA isn't going away on March 5th. Now, there are protections that basically what they did was on September 5th, they said if your DACA lapses between now and March 5th, you have 1 month to reapply. That was about 170,000 people. You know, about 22,000 of those folks didn't actually reapply here. But DACA is gone. When we talk about why it's urgent to get it done this year, the idea that the president is going to just say, hey, just kidding, we're going to keep this thing going here. I don't want to like pretend to know fully what the president was thinking when he tweeted that out. I think the better things to look at are the numerous times he has said Congress needs to act, the numerous times he has talked about Dreamers being exactly the sort of people who want to come here. Because I do not think, and I have not heard this from anybody who's working on this, that people think there's some sort of a backup option. That's why it's absolutely critical that Congress do it and do it now. Because look, if any piece of legislation is going to take time to be implemented here, if you wait until March 5th to pass something, you're going to have people who are going to fall out of status in the program. And we know exactly how many people that is. I mean, if you were to set up, say, let's say it took 2 months, or let's say it took 3 months to get the program enacted, that's 90,000 DACA recipients who are going to lose their status, lose their jobs, and be subject to immediate deportation. And now, it may not be 2 months, it may not be 3 months, it could be more here. But I do think this idea that somehow there's some sort of like backup option here is really important to understand that that's not there. And that's some of the conversations we're having on the Hill. Because look, the reason I think we're all really optimistic this is going to get done, and there's, 5 weeks left before the holidays, is because the consequences are really devastating. I mean, I think that's actually an important thing to be really clear about here. This isn't the promise of a better immigration system in the future. This is, if Congress doesn't get this done, you're going to have people who are losing jobs and forced out of jobs in every major sector, in every state, in every congressional district in the country. And fair or not, that tends to be when people act, and that tends to be when Congress acts, when there's an urgent crisis. And so explaining that to people, that there's only one way out of this, is really important, and really a lot of the conversations we're having today.
Can I ask one question? The cotton purview legislation that would cut the immigration in half, do you folks have any thoughts on it?
Well, I will not speak for you. I'll let you go first. I think we share a view on this.
Yeah, not the purpose of today's press conference, but we did have a statement of reaction. We oppose attempts to cut legal immigration as proposed in that legislation. We believe it would be harmful for the economy and for America as a whole. So we'll get you that statement, but yes, we oppose it.
We fully agree with the Chamber. We think immigration is a source of strength for this country, particularly high-skilled immigration, and we oppose the proposed legislation from Senators Cotton and Perdue.
Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Just a general question kind of about the tech industry's relationship with the Trump administration. Yesterday in San Francisco, Reed Cordish said that tech executives are still working with White House officials behind the scenes. The relationship isn't bad, as some might think. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you agree with that characterization?
We've engaged with the administration from the beginning. We were one of the first to engage with the Trump team shortly after the election, before the inauguration. As we said then in a letter our CEO sent to then President-elect Trump, we proposed a number of areas where we thought we could work together. One of them is skills and apprenticeships. This happens to be Apprenticeship Week. The President made some announcements. We strongly support those. We also said when we disagreed, we would not hesitate to say so. We believe that DACA is a source of strength. The Justice Department made a decision to end it. What the President said was he thought Congress should act. We actually agree with him on that. We think Congress should act. We believe that this deserves to be have a legislative basis to provide certainty and predictability, both to businesses and, more importantly, to the DACA recipients.
Thank you all.